an exploration of trauma, transformation, and triumph. Your healing starts here. And we are back with another episode of Through the Trauma Podcast. I'm Amber, your host, and today I have with me a guest with quite a traumatic story. She was ran over by a car and dragged, and she's going to tell us how she has found resilience on the other side of that. So, Kim, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story with us. I'm excited to get into everything that you've learned from this traumatic situation.
Thanks for having me, Amber. I'm really excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all. I know that I gave a very brief introduction, but just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. My name is Kim Callaway, obviously, and I live in North Carolina with my husband and my dog. I am a project manager for a software company. Really nothing that exciting. I had this happen to me and have become a little bit more interesting since then. But other than that, I'm pretty plain and boring.
I wouldn't say that, but software engineering, I don't know if that's an exciting field, but I definitely know it sounds tough. So, Kim, you have this story that happened to you, and obviously we don't get to choose what happens to us. Things just life hands us these things sometimes. Can you get into a little bit about what happened? This happened back in 2020, is that correct?
Yeah, it's so weird. Trauma or big things that happen, they feel like such a short time ago, but also forever ago. Yeah, so I went to the gym every day, 5 a.m. class, normal. And I was walking out, so into the parking lot, and I waved on or said thank you for letting me by. Next thing I knew, there was a blackout. I remember getting hit in the arm from the SUV that ran me over. And then, you wake up and you don't really know what's going on. You feel like, let me stand up. And nope, there was no standing up. And then I, just screamed and obviously they brought in all the fire trucks and ambulances and all that. And it was just in the flash of an eye, but coming to and learning, obviously people did see it, but yeah, I was hit by a Jeep Grand Cherokee SUV. And dragged under the car for probably about 10 to 15 feet, they think. I had a good amount of injuries. I had 8 broken ribs, a shattered humerus. Thankfully, my legs were okay. I think I was so short that I just, kind of went under. But I had a couple broken fingers, a dislocated collarbone. My entire hair was ripped out of my side of my head, and just so many bruises and cuts. But yeah, that is what happened.
Have you talked to the driver
I have
since the
not
accident?
I have not talked to the driver since the accident. Obviously you can speculate what if someone doesn't see you whenever they're driving, but no, nothing ever came of it. And it happened to me for a reason, and that's okay. That's okay. Even if she was looking at her phone or even if she wasn't paying attention, it is okay.
So did you wake up there at the site of the accident?
I
So
did.
you blacked out and then you come back too, but you didn't know obviously what had happened.
I did not know what happened. I did know that it was a hit. I specifically remember feeling that on my arm. Went under the car, blacked out, felt them hit me. I was obviously blacked out underneath the car, and then I woke up looking at the sky. I tried to get up and then screamed for help, but no, I didn't know exactly what had happened to me. It felt like, whenever you're about to go down and you're about to fall and you're trying to catch yourself, that is what I felt. And then I went black.
So you didn't know were you in pain or was your adrenaline?
I think there was a little bit of adrenaline. I could not feel my arm. I kept saying, like, something's wrong with my arm. They ripped my arm off. Like, I thought my arm was gone. Thankfully, it still exists. Obviously, through all the trauma in my life, I love to make jokes. So I remember laying on the ground and trying to laugh with the people who had gathered around me, my friends, because obviously I worked out with them. And, I was like, well, something's got to be wrong. Like, just trying to make jokes in light of my injuries. But
So when you woke up, when you tried to yell, were you alone or were people gathering?
I was alone. People had started running out once they realized that something had happened, and I think they heard the screaming. I know there were 2 people who were getting out of their car to go into the next class that obviously I think they said they saw like my feet or my shoes fly off. So they called 911. But yeah, I was alone, and then everyone gathered around.
And you don't know what the driver Did she get out of the car, or I guess she was probably terrified as well?
She did eventually get out of the car. I believe what was said is that she thought she had popped a tire, so which is why she had gotten out of the car. But and eventually did come back, but
Wow, what a story. I honestly am like speechless because I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that you just got pulled in a car, you're conscious, you're talking, and but you're laying there alone. It just sounds so surreal. I could not even imagine what was going on in your head. And I think in those types of situations, you really don't think. It just happens all so fast. So you ended up going to the hospital, I'm assuming.
I did end up going to the hospital. I even remember I was very on it answering questions because obviously you have your phone and how do people get into my phone? I have a lock on it. So I mean I rambled off my password and had them call my husband, and I remember my husband showing up and looking up at him. Yeah, I remember all of that. So they load me into the hospital. I mean, I remember making jokes in the ambulance. But yeah, very sparsely. They were giving me drugs. They asked to cut my clothes off, and then I remember being wheeled into the hospital. Kind of like a Grey's Anatomy episode where you're just seeing the lights of just being wheeled in and being left to whatever they needed to do.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about like how this impacted you. Obviously, you're active, you're at the gym, you're working out. This happened in the gym parking lot?
Yep,
So you're
walking out of
active.
class.
Yes, you're a very active person. You work out, you live an active and healthy lifestyle. What was this journey after this? Like talk to me a little bit about what that looked like going forward.
Yeah. Amber, I mean, you hit it right on the head. It's really funny that I was very active and I did go to the gym and all that. And, even in the hospital, again, my therapist would tell you, I like to make jokes when I'm in trauma, but, I was like, I was doing burpees this morning. I kept telling people, but I think the funniest thing about all of this is I was not healthy. I was not in shape. I was overweight and not in a great place. And I think that that's the biggest part about this whole trauma experience is that I get hit by a car, I am active, and it's a huge problem not only for me based on what I went through in the trauma, but then also to not be able to move, to not be able to go to the gym. But I think the biggest part about this is that I found this different person of who I am. Once the recovery happened, it probably took about 8 months to a year. I had surgery. I had to go through physical therapy to even be able to do a push up. I started eating healthy. I started counting my macros. I lost 60 pounds and I started running because I had no other place to put my thoughts. I'd go to therapy and of course it'd feel good during it. And, me and my therapist would work through whatever we could, but like I didn't know where else to put it. I felt so sad. I felt so angry that I got everything taken away from me. I couldn't even shower or sleep in my own bed. And yeah, and I started to funnel it. I started to funnel it into, I went out and walked. Eventually, as I got past, just being able to walk, I started running. I started just putting my thoughts into what I can do with my body. And it was a huge recovery process. It was, and I'm a better for it, which sounds so crazy to say that being ran over by a car, I'm a better person after it.
Does it make you appreciate your ability to move and to function a little bit better having that taken away?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was even if I wasn't healthy, I still was doing it. And yeah, it was a huge part of my life just to go in and sweat out the angst and the anxiety and everything that you have, that I'm sure many people have. And yeah, for it to be taken away. And I was literally sitting, just sitting I didn't have surgery for 45 days after being ran over. I was very stir crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a situation about 3 years ago where I had never broken. Well, I did. I had like a break in one of my knuckles when I was younger, but aside from that, I didn't have any broken bones. And I was running down the stairs I was rushing to get on a call and I live on a split level. So my office is downstairs. And so I'm running down the stairs and my daughter had kicked off her slides right on the stairs and I slid. My foot hit the wall, which is like around the corner of the wall, and it popped my metatarsal, like
Oh my gosh.
completely just broke that bone in half. And it was really hard, like for me, because I come from fitness as well. Fitness is like my sanity. And I think a lot of times this is something that people fail to realize. And I've had other podcast episodes where we talk about this, but this idea of really channeling trauma through fitness and through movement and through and regulation of emotions through fitness, I think there's something to that. And for me, being into fitness and then breaking a bone to where I can't walk, I ended up having to get surgery too. And so there's so much time before surgery. Then you have the surgery, and there's so much time after the surgery that you have to recover. And it is hard mentally, especially if you are already used to working out. And you don't have to be in the most phenomenal
No.
shape. Just movement in general we discount that a lot of times. So
Yes.
I can totally relate to what you're saying there, as far as um that challenge of having to just sit there and feel like, oh my gosh, I was just working out yesterday. Now I'm trying to um figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm like, can't even move. So that's hard. Having gone through that, and I know you learned a lot through that. What advice would you have for someone if they found themselves in that situation?
Oh man, because that is the hardest thing. I think if you are unable to work out, I tried my best to journal, to write it down, to get any thoughts that I could get out. I even tried to do little things like, the little bands and, you move like that. Just try to do everything little. And I think that's for anyone, even if you're not injured or even if you aren't a fitness, just start out small. Go for a 10-minute walk, do 5-minute walk, do anything that you can do just to get that blood flowing. It helps your brain, like you said, regulate or just get your mind off of it. Just have your mind think about something else. Anything helps. That's what I would say. Anything you can do, even if your legs are broken, even if your foot's broken, just do bicep curls. Just do anything
Yeah.
you can. And it does help regulate the mind.
Now that you have gone through this experience and that healing process, how has this changed your views of fitness?
Oof, man, that's a great question. Well, it's always going to be I think there was a famous quote from a movie that endorphins make you happy and happy people. That will forever be it makes me happy and it makes me grateful that I was given this body, that I was given this second chance, that I can go out there and do it. That's the way it'll always be. I was given this second chance, and my body not only went through what it went through, it has built itself back. And the body's so amazing, and as you know, anyone that breaks a bone or something happens to them, your body knows what to do. It gets through it. It heals itself. And I mean, even just my hair, like that coming back, your body's amazing, and movement helps. It makes you feel better.
Yeah. Obviously, healing is one of those things that happens. It can happen mentally, it can happen physically, emotionally. Trauma is one of those things that it can attach itself to us any time in life. Like we can go through whatever we go through, and some people may not find it traumatizing, while other people find it extraordinarily challenging and traumatizing. So what you just described is obviously healing your physical body and the results that you've seen from that. But talk to us a little bit about how this has changed mentally and healing mentally, because when we go through physical healing, there's a level of mental healing that happens alongside of that. Did you experience that at all?
I did. Funny enough, I had actually always been in therapy, or at least most of my adult life, just going in. And I felt a little stuck at the time when this event happened. And me and my therapist have been working together for a while. And I feel like once this happened, I felt like I was at the bottom of the barrel. Like I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to start all over. Like I was so discouraged. But yeah, things moved very fast after this happened. And I don't know if my body healing and me overcoming everything and moving into and past all that I had come, it just seemed to go very fast. We did a lot of, how do I feel, and like talking to the person who ran me over, obviously experimentally, putting something in place in the room and talking to her and telling her how I felt, and that this accident made me feel unsafe, and all the thoughts that I had. But yeah, it seemed to really move my mental progress and therapy along a lot faster. And my therapist did mention to me, she's like, usually whenever your body is healing, kind of like you were saying, your mental takes the same journey. So yeah, it did help a lot, which seems crazy to say. I feel like people would be like, that seems weird, but it does.
So you were in therapy prior to this. You weren't in therapy just because of this event taking
No,
place.
no, I was in therapy already.
So what is your advice on therapy? Because I am an advocate for therapy. I think everybody needs it.
Amen.
I love having coaches and mentors and therapists and people speaking into my life because I think it's so valuable. But there's a stigma around therapy
There is.
that culture says, you're whatever if you have to have therapy. Although I think everyone needs it. People don't have it. And then it goes untreated a lot of times because people just don't want to do it because there's a stigma. So, what are your thoughts on therapy? Obviously, I'm sure you were extremely happy that you had a therapist going through the healing process of this. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with everything you just said. Therapy is the best thing that I have ever done for myself. And, it may be a little selfish to want to talk about yourself for an hour each week or every 2 weeks, but you know what? It's there to help you. It's there to work through things and not have any judgment or any preconceived notions that they're going to, tell you you're wrong, or they're just going to help you. They help you understand you. There's a lot, even a couple weeks ago, we had a session where I was like, really? That's what I'm going through? It's just so eye-opening. And it's not even them telling you, it's them leading you to what you need to know about yourself. And it's an amazing process, especially if you find the right therapist. I feel like you gotta have a couple trials.
It's like the hero's journey. Are you familiar with that story? A lot of movies follow that protocol for how they tell a story, but it's like you have to have a therapist that's your guide. They kind of lead you in the right way to wherever you need to go. But it's so true because what you're describing is a different perspective. So a lot of times we get stuck in our perception, the way that we see the world, the way that we see things, the way that we've experienced things that we're walking through. And I think a lot of times that once you get stuck in that perspective, it takes something to shift you out of it. And that can be in the sense of a therapist or a guide or someone that's leading you out of that or helping you see a different perspective. Unfortunately, we live in this culture right now where I feel like there's a shortage of people being honest and telling you the truth because everybody's scared that they're going to be offensive. And so it takes a really trusted individual to speak into your life and to critique you. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying in
No,
general. I look for that in friendships. I'm
absolutely.
like, I would love someone to critique me and tell me, and I want people to tell me what they really think. That way I can adjust because if I've been offensive or said something out of line and no one says anything to me, then how do I fix that if I don't know? Sometimes just sharing a different perspective and seeing the world painted in a different color, that's very valuable, especially if you've gone through something traumatic or are going through something traumatic, being able to see things from a different angle. How do you think your therapist was able to help you shift that? Because I'm sure you had a lot of emotions having just gone through this accident. And prior to that, you had your own set of emotions, and this traumatic thing happened and it shook you. And now you're seeing things a little bit different. But how did your therapist point you in the direction of seeing things even more positively or more different? And how has that shaped your journey even now, years later?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I completely agree with everything you just said. And I think she really did help me because I would have, if I didn't have her, I would have sat there and felt sorry for myself and blamed the person who did this to me and be angry at them. And she more helped me say, why do you feel that way, Kim? She didn't do it on purpose. Like, if something happens to you, you obviously are going to blame the person who did it to you. But why is it affecting you so much, Kim? Why do you feel that way? Why are you feeling those emotions? And looking at it in that directive instead of such a toxic, well, she's the enemy and I'm the victim. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere that way. So shape it into the why did that make you feel this way? She made me feel like I wasn't important or that she didn't care. And that was really what it came down to. It my life was, this big, and that didn't matter to the person at that time. But again, it's, she didn't mean it. You got to look at it in different light. Like you said, it takes someone else to come in and help you, because obviously your family and your friends are going to be like, yeah, she's terrible. Like, that's the way it works. But to help you and say, she didn't do it. She didn't, I'm going to get Kim today. Like, no.
And so when we talk about this and we're talking about forgiveness, obviously, and this is something that we're faced with multiple times throughout our life, like numerous times throughout our life, is feeling like someone did this thing to me and I hold bitterness or hold resentment or hold frustration towards this person. But obviously your therapist helped you see to be able to forgive. How valuable do you think that is in anyone's journey going through harboring those feelings? How important do you think it is to forgive them?
Hugely important. And I know that sounds so cliche, and that sounds ter but I mean, Amber, when I was sitting there, not moving, not exercising, I was stalking her Facebook and her Instagram, and that's not healthy. That's not good. And it's so important to forgive, and I understand that it's hard, especially, I mean, there are so many things out there that are trauma that's not just being, ran over. There's way worse, but it's not good to waste your energy on hate and anger and all those emotions. And yeah, of course they're going to be there. I mean, I was not a fan of her for however long, but it's wasted emotion.
It's so true. That's so true. It's wasted energy because it's like time that you could be focusing on something powerful for yourself. It's like we expend all this emotion and energy to say, well, this person shouldn't have done that. They should, and it is it's human nature for us to want to do that. It's like we have to fight against that. But there's modalities, there's certain things that you can do. Talk therapy is great. It's one of the modalities I think that is super powerful by seeing other people's perspectives. There's other things as well that people can do to release those emotions and to let go of some of the things that is they're holding on to. Because at the end of the day, this is what I've found, and not only in my personal walk journey through this life and my human existence, but talking to other people, other guests that I've had on the podcast. If you harbor that, it ends up making you sick. Like it hurts you more. And I know it sounds so cliche. It's like it hurts you more not to forgive than it actually hurts the person. But if you are dealing with unforgiveness, that person doesn't know.
No.
She didn't know you were looking at her Facebook. She didn't know you were like angry or upset over this. Now, in that situation, I do think perhaps there should be an apology. But how many times do we feel like things happened and yes, maybe we're owed an apology, but you hit the nail on the head when you said that expending that energy over this person should apologize to me, it ultimately comes back to this is just hurting me. Because it's time that I could take spending my energy on positivity or filling my mind with positivity or doing positive things, growing and healing. And there is one thing that I was thinking when you were talking earlier, when we were talking about the bones. I've mentioned it here on the podcast before. I don't know if you've heard this, but did you know that when you break a bone and it grows back, that it grows back stronger than before it was broken? Have you ever heard that?
No, I didn't.
So the funny thing is that we're obviously talking about a physical representation of a broken bone, but I like to compare all the physical back to the mental as well. And when we've been broken, whatever that looks like, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, that bone grows back stronger. And so it goes to show us that situations like what you went through, it has grown you into something that maybe you couldn't have grasped had you not been through it. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's instead of my focus being on she did this to me, this happened to me, it's now been I'm going to be strong. I'm going to do that because I can, and I'm going to be awesome at it. And I think that's why I ran my first marathon. I was like, well, I'm going to do this because I know my body can do this because I'm awesome. And that sounds so, but I mean, it's serious. Like, I know that I can do this and I'm going to focus my energy on it. I'm going to Yeah,
which is a healthy way to focus. That's very healthy to say, I'm going to focus in on doing this thing and prove that I can do this thing. And, your story is definitely one that shares this idea of resilience and bouncing back and forgiveness, which is really hard. That is a
it
hard
is.
thing,
It is really
especially
hard.
when you feel owed. Like it would have been nice to just receive an apology, but
I think she did try. I think there was a point, and again, I had a lot of, and I think she reached out to my husband or the gym and said, "Can I bring Kim something?" And I was like, "No!" Like I was very angry at that point. So, in all credit, I do like to give credit where it's due, but I had no interest at that time.
Mhm.
But
Well,
it
and
was
can I
fresh.
ask when this happened, I mean, obviously you were younger. Sometimes we have limited views of things that comes with age as we get older and we get live through more life experiences and more people do crummy stuff to us. It's like now we can be able to let go a little bit. But if you had advice to give someone on letting go or on overcoming or even on resilience, like what would you tell them?
I would tell them that they can do anything that they put their mind to. Seems, again, I feel like we're clicheing all over the place here, but you can do anything that you put your mind to, whether that is resilience, whether that is, and I hate even saying forgiveness because I feel like that's not something like I'm going to put my mind to forgiving, but getting your mind right, getting your mind to a point where you can get there. And I think even forgiveness, I dealt with a lot of like self forgiveness in my therapy journey, and I think that came into play a lot during this traumatic. Well, if I wouldn't have went to the gym at 5 a.m., well, if I wouldn't have done this, started to blame myself. And I think you need to a be in the right frame, be in the right thought process, which is not always easy. But think of everything. Think of, how is this going to affect me in the future? How is this going to affect my husband or my family? Even if you have kids, or I mean, heck, my dog like couldn't walk them. Just knowing that you can do anything is seriously a superpower. I mean, and you take your time. If you go through anything, of course you're going to take your time. You're going to say, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to do this. And I think that that's okay. And I think you need to have grace for yourself. If you want to take a year or 2 years, or, and wallow and just not be interested in forgiving, then that's okay.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
you can do anything. You can be a better person. You can be anything that you put your mind to.
Think that is such valuable information, like it's valuable advice because it is true. And it is something that it is an intentional thing to think through things. And what you just described is this idea of being able to let go so many times. And I've seen this a lot here on the podcast as well. We've talked about it a lot, but this idea of being able to let things go, like allowing yourself to feel the emotion, because we are emotional beings. We are human. So we're going to experience feelings that we don't like and feelings that we don't like about ourselves. And self forgiveness is one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I'm feeling this. I don't want to feel this. I hate this. To the point sometimes we hate that character trait so much in ourselves that when we see it in other people, we don't like the person because it's like I know that character trait. I have it. I embody it. But it goes back to growth and it goes back to being able to recognize awareness is first, being able to be aware that this is something that I have an emotion of frustration or whatever the emotion is. I have this. Now, how can I release this emotion? And giving yourself permission to feel it without stuffing it. You cannot release what you don't face, what you don't let go of, what you don't recognize. And so many people that they don't want to do therapy, they don't I don't think people don't want to grow. I think their growth is uncomfortable.
Yes, it is.
And so a lot of times people's like, I don't want to broach it, but there's beauty on the other side of it. I wish people could understand that. And I think that so many things could be fulfilled and helped, and we could get in such a healthier place, like even physically healthier, if we could learn to embrace the emotion, let the emotion go, and move past it. Learn how to release it and let it go. And there's so many modalities out there. Talk therapy is one of them, but there's many other modalities that helps people overcome emotions. So I
There
would
is.
encourage people to get in there, figure out what those emotions are that's making you react the way that you react, and then
Yeah.
go get them healed
Yeah.
because life's
Because
too
it's
short.
and it's so much fun. Now that sounds so it's actually a lot of work and, it is uncomfortable, but it just to know yourself, it's so much fun. It's really funny. My therapist always tells me because I'll identify emotions that I feel, and she's like, "You need to give it the light side of that emotion." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what that is." So we'll wordsmith of what emotion are you feeling? Why do you give it? And then give it a light side, so then we can use it in our new life. So yeah, I think therapy is great.
That's some really good practical advice there. But again, it goes back to changing the perspective of how
Yeah.
you're seeing things, right?
Yep.
Because we see that emotion, but there's a benefit to it. And I think overall, when you look at this podcast or any individual story that's told, you have these amazing things that it's trauma has happened. We've journeyed through the trauma and now triumph can happen. There is beauty born out of pain. And I wish more people could see that and embrace that and allow that to happen in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking back at that person that I was, I am proud of myself, and I think everyone you should be able to think that about yourself. Be proud of yourself. Be proud of what you do. It's such a great feeling.
What is the one thing that you feel like has changed the most as a result of this accident in yourself?
Man, I feel like I try to see it from other people's from their perspective. Why are they reacting this way? Why are they angry? And feed that to them. It can't be easy going through, having to do your full-time job and trying to launch an implementation and all that. And everyone has their own stories that they're going through, and I'm sure that they're dealing with a bunch of stuff too, and it's not fun. And you never know what's going on in someone's life, so just try to see it from their perspective, and not only give yourself grace, give them grace. And yeah, there are some people out there that are just terrible and whatever, but just I'm sure that they're not having a great day too, and just ask them how they're doing. Just be
And
nice.
just to piggyback on that, this is something that I've considered a lot is this idea that we don't know what has made someone like why they act the way they act. And I think when you look at it, like, if you have this rotten coworker, for example, that just like is always mean to you or whatever, it's easy to be like, oh, this guy, like, he's just rotten all the time, like always mean to me. But who's to say that he didn't experience neglect when he was a child? Or, there's so many things that could have happened in the course of his life to make him bitter. And I think that the enlightened ones, the people that are like dead set on growth, they're like, they want personal growth. They are more positive, and sometimes giving people, even the difficult people, grace is it's just showing them that, hey, you don't have to be bitter. It's almost as if they're getting their punishment for having to live in that hell and not knowing how to overcome it. So I'm not gonna they make my life hell, but it stops here,
But yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
you're
just an
right.
example, but it's so true. We never know what someone's gone through and the things that they've had to deal with in their life. And I've heard some amazing stories here on this podcast. And there's so many other podcasts covering stories like this that you just don't know. And you have a choice. Is it going to make you better? Is it going to make you bitter? And what are you going to choose? We all have a choice in life. So you've obviously chosen better, and that's a beautiful thing. So, with all of that being said, if you had like a final takeaway or something you really want to leave with my audience, what would that be?
Yeah, I think going back to what I said is that you can do literally anything. You are so strong and capable and amazing, and just go out there and take it. I know trauma is hard. I know that things that happen to us really suck and they're very difficult to get over, but take the time you need. But there is a better day out there coming for you. Whether that's in a year, whether that's in 2 years, but there is a better day. But again, I know it's hard, but I feel like I'm living proof.
Yeah. That's
overcame.
awesome. And that's awesome. You definitely have. Kim, your story is beautiful. I thank you so much for sharing it with us today. If someone wanted to get in contact with you or learn more about you, where would they go to learn more about you?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you can go to Instagram. My handle is Bionic Rudolph. Yes, like the red-nosed reindeer. But yeah, I'm on there. I'm sharing of my story and the journey that I've been taking since post-accident. So yeah, come give me a follow.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing with us. I really appreciate it. And, hopefully your story will just give a ripple effect into the world for those that are struggling with some of the same things, and hope that it also kind of destigmatizes therapy. I love that you talk so openly about that. And you've obviously got a lot of like nuggets of truth and
Thank you.
amazing things from your therapist. So I'm blessed to hear that as well. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Amber. I really appreciate it.
Hey there, friend. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time here with us on Through the Trauma podcast. Your presence means more than you know. If this episode has spoke to you or gave you hope or made you feel just a little bit less alone, then I would love it if you would take a second, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who truly needs to hear it. Every share, every comment, every listen, it all helps our message get out and reach those who truly need it the most. Healing happens inside of a community, and together we are breaking the silence and creating space for transformation. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You are not alone.